You love those animals more than you love me. That's the last thing my daughter said before slamming the door and walking out of my life. The sound echoed through the hallway like thunder. One of the picture frames fell from the wall, shattering on the floor. My heart shattered with it. My name is Evelyn Harper, 67 years old, living in a small, aging white house just outside Dayton, Ohio. I used to be a nurse. I used to be a wife. I used to be a mother someone was proud of. Now I'm just the old lady with too many pets. Lydia, my only daughter, left me with 2 dogs and 3 cats, promising she'd come back in a few weeks. That was 7 months ago. The first few days I told myself she just needed space. But as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, I realized something far worse. She wasn't coming back. The house used to hum with life, the smell of pancakes, her laughter, my husband's old jazz records playing from the living room. Now it smelled like canned dog food and rain leaking through the roof. I tried calling her once. Just once. She didn't answer. Then a message popped up. "Mom, please stop calling. You'll be fine. I'm busy." "Fine," I muttered to myself, looking around at the cracked paint, the sagging ceiling, and the 5 hungry faces staring at me. Yeah, I was fine. Every morning I'd pour coffee into my favorite chipped mug, the one Robert gave me for our anniversary, and sit on the porch watching cars pass by. Sometimes I'd imagine one of them stopping, Lydia stepping out, smiling, saying, "Mom, I'm sorry." But that moment never came. One gray afternoon, while feeding the cats, I noticed the old photo album still on the shelf, the one Lydia told me to throw away, because no one prints photos anymore. I opened it. There was a picture of her at 16 standing beside her father, my Robert, just before his accident. I still remember the night he died. The police said his car skidded on ice. No foul play, no investigation, just another winter tragedy. But as I looked closer at the photo, something caught my eye, a black envelope tucked behind the page. It had my name written in my husband's handwriting. My hands trembled as I pulled it out. Inside was a note written in fading ink, "If anything happens to me, find Lydia. She'll know what to do." My stomach twisted. Lydia was only 16 when he died. She never mentioned any of this. And why was the letter hidden in her photo album, not mine? I tried to calm myself, telling the dogs I was being paranoid. But that night, I couldn't sleep. The rain kept tapping against the window like fingers. At 2:17 a.m., I heard a car stop outside. Headlights flashed through my curtains. Then 3 slow knocks on the door. I froze. "Lydia," I whispered, clutching the flashlight I kept by the couch. No answer. When I peeked through the peephole, no one was there. Just a small cardboard box sitting on the porch. It had no label, no name, just a single paw print stamped in mud. I brought it inside, wiping the rain off my slippers. The dogs followed me, whining. Inside the box was a photograph Lydia as a little girl sitting on Robert's lap, both smiling, but on the back of the photo, written in black marker, were 5 chilling words. "You don't know the truth." My breath caught. The photo slipped from my hand and fluttered to the floor. Who sent this? What truth? I searched the porch again, nothing. Just rain and the sound of my neighbor's wind chimes. When I turned back inside, all 5 pets were staring at the photo on the floor, their eyes reflecting the dim kitchen light. And then I noticed something muddy footprints leading from the door to the counter. Too large to be from either dog. Too far apart. Almost like a person's. I stood frozen, listening. The wind howled. The house creaked. Then from the hallway, a faint sound. A door slowly closing. From Lydia's old room. My heart slammed against my chest. I took a step forward, gripping the flashlight tighter. The animals all turned their heads toward the same direction. Daisy growled. The doorknob twisted once, and then stopped. I whispered into the dark Lydia, "Is that you?" Silence. Only the slow, rhythmic drip of rain from the roof and something else. A voice. A whisper so soft I could barely hear it. "Don't open the door." I didn't open the door that night. Maybe I should have. Maybe I would have found nothing, just creaking wood and my imagination running wild. But something in that whisper chilled me to my bones. Don't open the door. It wasn't Lydia's voice. It was too low, too controlled, too deliberate. So I turned the deadbolt and sat on the floor with Daisy and Max pressed against me, their fur damp from the storm. I didn't sleep a second that night. By sunrise, the world looked ordinary again. The rain had stopped, birds were chirping, and the light spilling through the window made everything seem harmless. Almost. I brewed coffee strong and black just the way Robert used to drink it. My hands were still shaking as I reached for the sugar bowl. That's when I noticed it muddy fingerprints on the kitchen counter. Human-sized. Too wide to be mine. And next to them, a small metal key. I'd never seen it before. It had a tiny heart-shaped tag engraved with the number 104. I stared at it confused. My heart pounded. Room numbers storage. A motel Robert used to travel for work before he died. Could it be from one of his old trips? Or something Lydia had kept hidden? I didn't know. But something in my gut told me the box, the letter, the key. They were all connected. That day I tried to carry on like normal. I fed the pets, cleaned the dishes, folded laundry. But every time I passed Lydia's bedroom, my eyes darted to the door. It was still slightly open. I could have sworn I'd locked it last night. When I peeked in, the room was empty, neat, untouched. Except for one thing. Her prom photo, which had always hung straight on the wall, was now crooked, tilted just slightly to the left. It was like someone had brushed past it. My stomach twisted. That's when Daisy started barking a deep, angry sound that came from her chest. She was facing the hallway, tail-stiff teeth showing. The other dog joined in while the cats darted under the couch. I froze. The barking grew louder, then silence. A moment later, something scratched from inside the wall. Slow, repetitive. I backed away, heart racing. I knew this house creaked, but this wasn't a creak. It was deliberate. Scratch, scratch, scratch. I grabbed the phone and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone in my house, I whispered, or inside the wall. I don't know, the operator told me to stay calm, keep the line open. 10 minutes later, a police cruiser pulled into the driveway. 2 officers walked through the house, checked every room, the attic, even the crawl space. Nothing. The younger officer smiled politely. "Ma'am, you're alone here, right?" I nodded. "Sometimes animals scratch through insulation or pipes. Could be raccoons or rats. Happens in older homes." I wanted to believe him, but I knew every sound in this house. I'd lived here for 30 years. This wasn't an animal. Before they left, I showed them the key I'd found. The older officer turned it in his hand and frowned. "This looks like a safety deposit key. You know, for a bank box. A safety deposit box." I felt my heart stop. Robert had one years ago. He told me he closed it before he died, but what if he hadn't? That night, I called the local branch of Midland Savings, the same bank where Robert used to work. When I asked about Box 104, the teller hesitated. "I'm sorry, ma'am. That box is still active, but it's under restricted access. I can't share any details." Restricted. What does that mean? It means only the authorized owner or secondary signatory can open it. My voice trembled. And who's the secondary? There was a pause on the line. "I'm not supposed to tell you this, but the name listed is Lydia Harper." I dropped the phone. Why would Lydia have access to a box I didn't even know existed? And why hide it from me all these years? I sat in silence trying to piece everything together. The envelope, the photo, the whisper, the key. My husband had written, "Find Lydia. She'll know what to do." Was this what he meant? But Lydia was gone. No calls, no texts, no word, or so I thought. At exactly 11:43 p.m., my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something, maybe fear, maybe instinct, made me pick up. "Hello, static." Then a faint voice barely audible through the crackling. "Mom, I froze. "Lydia, Lydia, where are you?" More static. Then "Don't go to the bank." The line went dead. I stood in the middle of my kitchen staring at the phone in disbelief. My mind spun. Don't go to the bank. Was she in trouble? Or trying to keep me away from something I wanted to call her back, but the number didn't exist. When I tried redialing, an automated voice said, "This number is not in service." For days, I couldn't think about anything else. I didn't eat. I barely slept. The pets sensed it. They followed me everywhere, whining, pacing, refusing to leave my side. Finally, I made a decision. If my daughter didn't want me near that bank, there must be a reason. And I was going to find out what it was. The next morning, I dressed in my best cardigan, brushed my hair, and drove to Midland Savings. The air inside smelled of polished wood and coffee. Everything looked too clean, too calm, the opposite of what was happening inside my head. At the counter, I handed the key to the teller. "Box 104, please." She scanned my ID and frowned. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Harper, this isn't listed under your name." I smiled tightly. "It's under my husband's, Robert Harper." Her eyes widened. "Robert Harper." "One moment, please." She disappeared into the back room. 5 minutes passed, then 10. When she returned, she wasn't alone. A man in a suit followed behind her, mid-30s, sharp, polite smile. "Mrs. Harper," he said, "I'm Noah Grant, the branch manager. Would you step into my office, please?" Inside, the air was cooler, quieter. Noah closed the door gently and sat across from me. "I understand this key belongs to your late husband. That's interesting because the box was last opened 3 months ago." I blinked. "That's impossible. Robert's been dead for 15 years. He nodded slowly. "I'm aware. But someone used this key, signed the ledger, and accessed the contents recently." "Who?" He hesitated. "I can't disclose that, ma'am, but I will tell you the surveillance footage from that day was deleted." My breath caught in my throat. Deleted. Noah leaned forward, lowering his voice. "If you want to know what's in that box, come back tomorrow. Alone. Before noon." When I got home that night, the house felt different, heavier, quieter. The animals were restless again. As I poured myself a drink, my eyes drifted to the hallway mirror, and for half a second I saw something behind me, a figure standing in Lydia's doorway. Tall, still, watching. I spun around. The hallway was empty, but on the floor right beneath that door was a single envelope, my name written across it, in Lydia's handwriting. I didn't open the envelope right away. It sat on the kitchen table, all-night yellow paper, slightly damp at the edges. Lydia's handwriting slanted and rushed like she'd written it in fear. Every time I reached for it, something in me froze. I'd lost too much already, my husband, my daughter's love, my peace of mind. Whatever was inside that envelope might take away what little hope I had left. But by sunrise, I couldn't take it anymore. I made coffee, fed the dogs, and sat down at the table. The house was quiet except for the rhythmic tick of the wall clock. I took a deep breath and opened the envelope. Inside were 3 things: a folded letter, a photo of Lydia with a man I didn't recognize, and a small torn receipt from Midland Savings Bank dated just 2 months earlier. My hands shook as I unfolded the letter. "Mom, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't come back. Please believe me, I never meant to leave you like that. But I found out something about Dad, something about the money, the accident, and the people he worked for. They're still watching. Don't trust anyone from the bank, especially not a man named Noah Grant. I wanted to protect you. That's why I left. I thought they'd leave you alone if they thought you knew nothing. But if they've contacted you, it's already too late. The key I left, don't use it. Burn it. I love you, Mom. I'm so sorry." "Lydia." I stared at the words until they blurred. "Don't trust Noah Grant." My stomach turned cold. The man from the bank, the one who told me to come back tomorrow. For the first time in weeks, I felt real fear, not the kind that hides in shadows or whispers in the dark, but the kind that grips your chest and squeezes until you can't breathe. But under that fear, something else stirred resolve. Lydia might be gone, but I was still here. And I wasn't the helpless old woman everyone thought I was. I went to the closet and pulled out Robert's old lockbox, the one he kept under the floorboards before he died. Inside were a few photos, his death certificate, and an old flash drive. I'd never opened it. I didn't even own a computer back then. But now I had a cheap secondhand laptop Lydia had left behind. When I plugged in the flash drive, a single folder appeared. It was labeled RH Project Files. My heart pounded as I clicked it open. There were scans of contracts, invoices, and what looked like payment transfers, all connected to Midland Savings Bank. One document caught my eye, a signed agreement between Robert Harper and Noah Grant dated 6 months before Robert's death. That couldn't be right. Noah would have been a teenager back then, unless it wasn't the same Noah Grant, or the name wasn't real. Either way, it meant one thing: my husband's death wasn't an accident. That realization hit like ice water down my spine. I needed help. But who could I call? Not the police, they'd think I was crazy. Not Lydia, she was gone, maybe in danger herself. Then I remembered someone, Noah, the young veterinarian who helped me months ago when one of my cats got sick. He'd been kind, patient, trustworthy, maybe too trustworthy for me to realize how much I needed that. So I grabbed my coat, locked the door, and drove to his clinic. It was still early morning. The closed sign hung on the door, but the lights were on inside. Through the window, I saw Noah, tall in his scrubs, gently wrapping a bandage around a small terrier's paw. When he saw me, his face lit up. "Mrs. Harper, are you okay? You look pale." I hesitated. "Noah, do you have a minute? I need to talk." He nodded and led me into his office. The walls were lined with certificates, pictures of rescued animals, and a framed photo of him with a woman I assumed was his mother. I told him everything. About Lydia leaving the whisper in the night, the letter, the key, the man at the bank who shared his name. When I mentioned that part, his smile faded. "Wait," he said slowly, "you met a Noah Grant at the bank." "Yes. He said he was the branch manager." He leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing. "That's not possible. I don't work at a bank, and I don't have family there. I've never even been to Midland Savings." "But he looked just like you," I whispered. "Same eyes, same voice, just older." He stared at me for a long moment, then said quietly, "Mrs. Harper, my father's name was Noah Grant. He worked at Midland Savings 20 years ago. He died in a car accident when I was 10. The room spun. 2 car accidents, 2 fathers, 2 names. It couldn't be a coincidence." Noah got up pacing. "My dad left my mom when I was a kid. Said he was starting over somewhere new. We never heard from him again until the police said he'd crashed his car outside Dayton. Dayton, where Robert died." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Noah, your father's accident. What year was it? 2008? My voice trembled. "That's the same year Robert died." He stopped cold. "What?" We stared at each other, realization crashing down like thunder. 2 men, same year, same town, both linked to the same bank. My husband and his father. What if they weren't accidents? Noah whispered. What if they were connected? The room suddenly felt too small, too quiet. I opened my purse and showed him the letter. He read it carefully, his jaw tightening. "This changes everything," he said. "If what Lydia wrote is true, the bank's hiding something big, something that cost both our fathers their lives." He ran a hand through his hair. "We can't go to the police yet. If that guy at the bank is involved, they'll just cover it up. So what do? We find out what's inside that box, but not at the bank. If you have the key, we can make a copy, maybe track which branch it actually belongs to." I hesitated. Lydia's warning echoed in my head. "Burn it." But I didn't. I handed it to him. He turned it in his hand, inspecting the number. Box 104. That's not from the Dayton branch. These codes belong to the Columbus Regional Office. About an hour away. "Columbus," I whispered. "Lydia lived there before she left." Noah looked at me, his eyes sharp. "Then that's where we start." As I left his office, I felt something shift inside me. For the first time in months, I wasn't just waiting for answers, I was chasing them. The sun was rising behind me, cutting through the gray clouds. I rolled down the car window, the cold wind biting my face. I felt alive again, terrified, but alive. When I pulled into my driveway, the house looked almost peaceful. Until I saw the front door. It was open. Only an inch, but enough to see the lights flickering inside. My heart sank. I grabbed the flashlight and pushed the door open slowly. Everything was quiet, too quiet. The pets were gone. Their beds were empty. The bowls were overturned. On the kitchen table sat a new envelope. This one wasn't from Lydia. It was typed. Clean. Precise. "We warned you to stay out of this." And beneath it was the photo I'd found before the one of Lydia as a little girl on Robert's lap. Only now, a third person was in the photo, standing in the background, blurred but visible. It was Noah Grant, not the one I'd just spoken to, the older one, the one from the bank, smiling, watching us. I couldn't move. The photo trembled in my hands. The man standing behind us, behind Robert, behind Lydia, was unmistakable. The sharp jawline, the perfectly combed hair, the polite, eerie smile. It was the same face I'd seen at the bank. Noah Grant, or whoever that man really was. But this picture was taken 20 years ago. Lydia was barely 6. How could he look exactly the same now? The house felt colder than ever, the kind of cold that seeped into your bones and whispered, "You're not alone." I sat down at the table staring at that photo until my eyes burned. The typed note beside it still sat there like a warning carved in steel. "We warned you to stay out of this." My pulse thundered in my ears. They'd been here, inside my house. Again. The animals were gone. Not hurt, just gone. Their absence screamed louder than any noise. Daisy never left my side. Someone had to have taken them quietly, carefully. That thought ripped through me like lightning. Lydia's words echoed in my mind. "They're still watching." I forced myself to breathe. Think, Evelyn. Think. I scanned the kitchen, a half-empty glass of water, my purse on the counter, my car keys still in my coat pocket. The door wasn't broken. The lock wasn't forced. Whoever entered had a key. I grabbed the phone and called Noah, the real one, the veterinarian. The line rang twice before he answered, his voice groggy. "Mrs. Harper, is everything okay?" "No, it's not," I said, my voice trembling. "They were here. The pets are gone." And someone left another note and a picture. "He's in it, Noah. The same man from the bank, the same face 20 years ago." There was silence on the line. Then Noah said, low and careful, "Stay where you are. I'm coming right now." "No," I said quickly. "If they're watching, they'll see you. I'll meet you somewhere public. Somewhere safe." We agreed to meet at Dina's Diner, the old 24-hour place by the highway, halfway between my town and his. I'd gone there with Robert dozens of times. It was bright open, full of people. No one would dare do anything there. At least that's what I told myself. The drive there was torture. Every car in my rearview mirror made me flinch. The sky was gray-heavy with the promise of rain. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. By the time I pulled into the diner parking lot, my nerves were frayed raw. I scanned the cars, a red truck, 2 sedans, 1 police cruiser, nothing out of place. Noah was already there, standing outside, hands in his jacket pockets, eyes darting between the cars like he was expecting something. He waved when he saw me, but the look on his face wasn't relief. It was worry. Inside the diner smelled like coffee and fried eggs, familiar, comforting, almost enough to make me forget the fear crawling under my skin. We took a booth in the corner away from the windows. Noah slid into the seat across from me. "Show me the photo." I handed it to him. He stared at it, eyes narrowing. "This was taken in—" "What year?" he asked. 2005, I said. "Lydia's 6th birthday." Robert set up the tripod. "We didn't invite anyone else. That man, that face, he wasn't there." He turned the photo over, studying the back. "This isn't just an old picture. Look here, the edges. The gloss layer's new. Someone reprinted this recently. They edited it." I blinked. "Edited? Yeah." Added him in. Probably digitally. "Look at the light. It doesn't match your shadows." Relief and dread collided in my chest. So, he wasn't there. "Not then," Noah said quietly. "But whoever did this wanted you to believe he was, to make you doubt your own memory." I slumped back against the booth. Why target me?" Noah exhaled slowly. "Because you're the link, Evelyn. You and my father. Whatever they were a part of, it didn't die with them. Someone's tying up loose ends." The waitress came by with 2 cups of coffee. Her name tag said Rita. She smiled faintly. "Everything all right here?" Before I could answer, Noah gave a polite nod. "Yeah, thanks." But as soon as she walked away, he leaned closer. "Don't look now, but there's a man sitting 3 booths behind you. Brown coat, gray cap. He hasn't touched his food in 20 minutes. My breath caught. "Is he watching us?" Pretending not to. "Could it be him?" I whispered. Noah's jaw tightened. "I don't know, but I've seen that face before." The diner suddenly felt smaller, the hum of chatter sharper. I could feel the man's presence like a shadow pressing against the back of my neck. Noah slid a napkin across the table. On it he wrote, "Don't leave through the front. There's a back exit near the kitchen. Follow me in 2 minutes." I nodded slightly, pretending to sip my coffee. My heart hammered so hard I thought the whole diner could hear it. When Noah stood and headed toward the restrooms, I waited 30 seconds, 1 minute too. Then I slid out of the booth and walked casually toward the counter. As I passed the man in the brown coat, I glanced at his reflection in the glass. He was smiling. I almost froze right there. That same polite, chilling smile from the photo. I pushed open the swinging kitchen door and slipped through. Noah was waiting near the back exit. This way. We ran out into the alley behind the diner, the cold wind slapping our faces. The moment we hit the street, tires screeched. A dark SUV pulled out from behind the dumpster. Its headlights blinded us. "Go!" Noah shouted, grabbing my arm. We bolted across the lot, ducking behind another car as the SUV sped past, then stopped at the diner's front entrance. The man in the brown coat stepped out. He looked right at me. Then he raised a phone to his ear and smiled again. We crouched behind a truck until the SUV finally drove off. My lungs burned. I could barely catch my breath. Noah pressed a hand against his knee, panting. "They're tracking you, Evelyn. You can't go home." I stared at him. "What about my house?" "My things, the animals. They'll use them to lure you back." He reached into his jacket and handed me a folded piece of paper. "This is an address. A friend of mine, she runs an animal rescue out by the lake. Go there. She can hide you for a few days. What about you?" "I'm going to Columbus," he said grimly. "That's where Box 104 really is, and I think that's where this all began." He looked me in the eyes. "Whatever happens, don't trust anyone who says they're helping you, especially if they know your name before you tell them." I knotted my throat tight. As he turned to leave, I grabbed his arm. "Noah, be careful." He gave a small, tired smile. "You too, Mrs. Harper. We're closer to the truth than they want us to be." As his car disappeared into the gray horizon, I stood alone in the empty parking lot, clutching that cursed photo. Rain began to fall again, soft, relentless, and cold. Somewhere deep inside, I knew there was no going back. Because now, I wasn't just a mother searching for her daughter. I was a witness to something someone would kill to keep buried. The rain chased me halfway down Highway 40 before it turned into a storm. Sheets of water blurred the road, the wipers barely keeping up. The dashboard clock blinked 9:46 p.m. Noah was somewhere ahead, driving toward Columbus, toward the truth, and I was following only because I couldn't bear to hide. I told myself I'd stop at the animal rescue first, like he'd asked, but I couldn't. The farther I got from home, the louder the question in my head grew. What's inside that box? By the time I reached the outskirts of Columbus, the storm had eased to a drizzle. The city lights shimmered on the wet pavement like molten glass. I found a cheap motel on the edge of town, Maple Leaf Inn, and checked in under a fake name. I'd never lied like that before, but tonight it rolled off my tongue too easily. The room smelled like cigarettes and mildew. I set my bag down and opened the curtains a crack. Across the street, I could see the faint glow of the Midland Savings Columbus branch sign, closed for the night. My husband used to say the bank was a fortress. Nothing gets out unless someone powerful wants it to. Now I wondered if he'd meant that as a warning. I didn't sleep. Every sound outside a car door, a siren, footsteps in the hallway made me flinch. At some point after midnight, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number, tomorrow. Noon. Side entrance. Come alone. No name. No signature. But I knew it was Noah. Or at least I hoped it was. Morning came gray and restless. I dressed in my warmest coat, tucked the key to Box 104 into my pocket, and walked the 2 blocks to the bank. The air smelled of rain and diesel, and every reflection in the glass buildings made me think someone was following me. When I reached the side entrance, the door opened before I could knock. It was Noah. Or at least he looked like Noah. Same kind eyes, same worried expression, but there was something different. Colder. Calculated. "Mrs. Harper," he said softly, "I'm glad you came. I hesitated. You texted me." He smiled faintly. "Yes, come in. Let's finish what we started." I followed him inside my shoes, squeaking on the marble floor. The building was nearly empty. The air smelled too clean, sterile, almost surgical. He led me down a hallway toward the vault room. My heart hammered so loudly I thought he'd hear it. When we reached the heavy steel door, he gestured for the key. "You still have it," I pulled it out, gripping it tight. "You're sure this is safe?" "Of course," he said smoothly. "You deserve to know what's inside." Something about the way he said it, flat emotionless, sent a chill up my spine. Just then a voice called out from behind us. "Mrs. Harper, don't give him the key." I spun around. It was Noah. The real Noah. The one I'd met at the diner. He looked disheveled, rain-soaked, breathless. The other Noah turned, his polite smile fading. "Well," he said, "I was wondering when you'd show up." For a moment, time froze. Two identical faces, same voice, one real one not. The younger Noah, the vet, stepped forward, glaring at the older one. "Who are you?" The older man smirked. "I told you once, years ago. You just don't remember." "What are you talking about?" He stepped closer, eyes glinting under the fluorescent light. "I'm the man who raised you after your father disappeared." The vet's face went pale. "That's not possible. My mother raised me alone." "Did she?" The man said softly. "You were 10 when he died, weren't you? Do you even know which body they buried?" The room tilted. I backed away, the key clutched in my shaking hand. "What are you saying?" He turned to me, his voice smooth again. "Your husband didn't die in that crash, Mrs. Harper. He changed his name, took what wasn't his, hid it in this box, and your daughter found out." I felt the blood drain from my face. "You're lying." He smiled, that same polite, empty smile. "Am I open the box and see?" Noah stepped between us. "Don't listen to him. He's using you. That box isn't about money, it's leverage. Whatever's inside destroyed both our families," maybe the man said. "But one of you is still alive to claim it." Before I could speak, a sound echoed down the hallway footsteps. Heavy. More than one pair. "Security," I whispered. The older Noah's smile widened. Not exactly. 3 men in dark suits rounded the corner, moving fast. Noah grabbed my arm. "Run!" We bolted down the corridor, the echo of our footsteps mixing with the shouts behind us. I didn't look back. My lungs burned, the cold air slicing through my throat. We turned a corner and burst into the lobby. Glass doors. Freedom. Noah slammed the bar and pushed me through. The moment we hit the sidewalk, a gunshot cracked behind us. Glass exploded. People screamed. "Get in!" he yelled, yanking open the passenger door of his car. We peeled out of the lot, tires screeching, bullets clinking against the trunk as we sped into traffic. I clutched the key in my hand so tight it left marks on my skin. Who were those men? "Not police," Noah said grimly. "Private security. Whoever he works for, they don't want that box opened." Rain whipped across the windshield. "Then why risk your life?" I asked. He glanced at me, eyes hard. "Because if my father really died for this, I need to know why." We drove in silence for miles, the city shrinking behind us. The storm returned, thunder rolling like a heartbeat. Finally, Noah pulled into an abandoned rest stop and parked under a flickering light. He turned to me. "Give me the key." I hesitated. "No, not until I know what you're going to do." He sighed. "There's a storage depot 10 minutes from here. Midland's off-site vault. They keep backups of everything there, digital and physical. We'll open the box there away from them." I studied his face. He looked exhausted, scared, but honest. I handed him the key. "Then let's finish this." The depot was a concrete bunker behind a chain-link fence. The storm drowned out the sound of the padlock as Noah cut it with a crowbar from his trunk. Inside, rows of safety boxes lined the walls like metal graves. We found box 104 near the back. The key slid in perfectly, the click echoing like thunder. Noah opened it slowly. Inside was a thin leather folder sealed with a red ribbon. He untied it and pulled out a stack of papers. Contracts, signatures, receipts. At the top was a document labeled Project Echo Confidential. Authorized Robert Harper, a Noah Grant Sr. Noah looked at me, his voice barely a whisper. Our fathers worked together. I scanned the page, my stomach churning. The next sheet was worse, a photo of a facility, rows of cages animals with tags, injections, lab equipment. "What is this?" I whispered. Noah's voice cracked. "Animal testing, illegal experiments, offshore accounts. They were funding it through the bank. I felt sick. Robert would never. But then I saw his signature at the bottom of the page, my husband's handwriting. A sudden bang echoed through the depot. The door. Noah froze. They found us. The lights flickered. Then a voice called out, deep, calm, unmistakable. "Evelyn, put the folder down. You don't understand what you're holding. It was him, the other Noah." The voice echoed through the metal walls like thunder. "Evelyn, put the folder down. You don't understand what you're holding." It was smooth, steady, almost kind, but it froze me where I stood. Noah tensed beside me, his jaw tight, his eyes flicking toward the back door. "That's him," he whispered. "Don't say a word." The lights in the depot flickered, humming. Shadows stretched across the concrete floor, long and crooked. Rain hammered against the tin roof. I clutched the folder to my chest like it was the only thing keeping me alive. The man stepped into view from the doorway, trench coat, black gloves, same calm, practiced smile, the face that shouldn't exist, the man from the photo, the Noah Grant from the bank. "Mrs. Harper," he said gently, as if greeting an old friend, "you've caused quite a bit of trouble." My throat tightened. "Who are you?" He tilted his head, amused. "You know who I am." Noah, standing between us, snapped, "Stop it, stop using that name." The man's eyes flicked to him. "It's our name, isn't it?" Son Noah froze. "What did you say?" "You really don't remember, do you?" The man said softly, almost pitying. "You were so young when I took you in, after the fire, after your father made his mistake." Noah shook his head. "You're lying." The man smiled, slow and patient. "Am I was there the night he died, boy. The night both your fathers died. I felt the world tilt around me." "Both," I whispered. He turned to me. "Robert Harper and Noah Grant, senior partners, thieves, liars. They thought they could walk away from Project Echo, take the money, bury the truth. But the company doesn't forgive Mrs. Harper. It collects." He took a step closer. "Your husband knew that. That's why he made a deal to keep you safe, to erase your name from the files, and he paid with his life." My mouth went dry. It couldn't be true. Noah's voice broke through my thoughts, sharp and furious. "You killed them." "I ended them," the man corrected, "because they were going to expose everything, and if you're not careful, you'll do the same." He reached out his hand toward me. "Give me the folder, Evelyn. It's not your burden." I shook my head. "You think I'll hand this over after everything you've done?" His smile didn't fade. "You will, because if you don't, you'll never see your daughter again." The words hit like a punch to the chest. My hands went numb. "What did you just say?" He studied me calmly. "Lydia Harper. Alive. Hidden. Protected for now. She's been useful keeping you quiet all these years. But lately, you've been unpredictable." "You're lying," I whispered. He sighed, pulling something from his coat pocket, a photograph. It was Lydia, sitting on a cot in a dim room, a newspaper dated last week beside her. "She's waiting for you," he said. "But if you give me that folder, I can make sure she stays alive long enough for you to see her." Noah lunged forward. "You son of a—" The man raised a hand. "Don't. I'm not here to hurt you. Yet." His voice softened again, almost persuasive. "Evelyn, think about this. That file doesn't save your husband's name. It destroys it. Everything he built, everything you believed in, gone. You'll be left with nothing but ashes. Just like him." Tears burned my eyes. He lied to me all those years. He nodded slowly. "He lied to protect you." Isn't that what love looks like sometimes? For a split second, I wanted to believe him, that this nightmare had an order to it, that maybe my husband's sins were his way of keeping me safe. But then I looked at Noah, the younger one, standing between me and danger, shaking but unbroken. And I knew this man didn't speak for love. He spoke for control. Noah whispered, "Evelyn, run." I didn't move. The man took another step closer. "If you walk out that door, she dies tonight. I promise you that." My hands trembled. My heart thudded so loud I thought it would burst. And then from somewhere behind us came a sharp cracked glass shattering, a flash of light, a gunshot. The older Noah stumbled back, clutching his shoulder, his face twisting in fury. "Go!" the younger Noah shouted, grabbing my arm. We sprinted toward the back exit as bullets pinged off the metal shelves. Papers scattered through the air like snow. My lungs burned, my vision blurred, but I kept running. We burst out into the rain-soaked field behind the depot. Mud splashed against my shoes as we ran toward the woods. I could hear the older man shouting behind us, his voice no longer calm, no longer kind. "You can't hide forever. You think the truth will save you. It never does." The thunder swallowed his words. By the time we reached the tree line, I was gasping. My legs screamed with every step. Noah slowed, helping me to a fallen log. He checked the folder still clutched to my chest. Miraculously, it was dry. "You held on to it," he said, half in awe, half in disbelief. "I wasn't about to hand it over to that devil." He gave a small, tired laugh. "You're tougher than you look, Mrs. Harper." I managed a weak smile. "I was a nurse for 30 years. You learn how to hold steady while everything falls apart." His face softened. "We need to get somewhere safe. There's an old ranger cabin nearby off the grid. We'll rest there, then figure out our next move." I nodded. "And him. He'll come after us," Noah said quietly. "But now we know what he wants, and that means we have something to fight with." As we trudged through the mud, lightning lit up the sky behind us. For a second, I could see the depot in the distance, its door hanging open, a figure standing in the rain, watching. Even from far away, I could see the gleam of his smile. And somehow I knew he wasn't done with us. We reached the cabin an hour later. The place smelled of dust and pine. Noah barred the door while I collapsed into a wooden chair, my whole being trembling. He started a small fire, the orange light flickering against the walls. For a moment, the world felt still again. Then I noticed something new carved into the wooden table, half faded by time. 4 letters. LH, Lydia Harper. I traced the initials with my fingers, my breath catching. "Noah, she's been here." He looked at me sharply. "Recently." Before I could answer, a floorboard creaked behind us. We turned, and standing in the doorway, drenched pale eyes wide with fear, was Lydia. For a moment, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. There she was, Lydia, standing in the doorway like a ghost made flesh. Her hair clung to her face. Her clothes soaked through her breath, shallow and uneven. "Mom," she whispered. Her voice cracked on the second syllable. "You shouldn't have come here." The folder in my lap slid to the floor. "Lydia." I stood so fast the chair behind me toppled over. "Honey, where have you been? What happened to you?" She flinched at the word honey as if it hurt. "Please just listen. You have to get out before he finds you." Noah stepped forward cautiously, his hand hovering near his pocket where I knew he kept a small knife. "Who's he, Lydia?" She turned toward him, eyes wide with panic. Don't trust him. You don't understand. I'm trying to," he said steady but firm. "You disappeared. You left your mother with nothing but a box full of lies." "So start explaining." Her eyes darted between us. The firelight flickered across her face, pale, haunted, older than her 31 years. "I didn't leave," she said finally, her voice trembling. "I ran." The wind howled outside, rattling the windows. I felt like the whole forest was leaning closer to listen. Ran from what I asked softly. She sank to her knees beside the fire, wrapping her arms around herself like she was freezing. From him, from the man calling himself Noah Grant. The name made my stomach twist. "The one from the bank," she nodded. "He found me months ago. Said he worked with Dad. Said there was unfinished business. He promised if I helped him, he'd release files that would clear Dad's name." I swallowed hard. "What kind of files? Records from the project?" she said. "Project Echo." He said it was just research funding, nothing illegal. But once I saw the photos, I realized what it really was. Animals, chemicals, human testing. Her voice broke. "They weren't saving lives, Mom. They were buying them." Noah, the younger one, crouched beside her. "And you helped him." Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know. He told me you were dead. Mom, that you'd had a heart attack last year. He said the only way to protect your legacy was to cooperate. So I did. I helped him track old accounts, decode encrypted files, until I found out what he really wanted." "What was that?" Noah asked. Her gaze dropped to the folder still lying on the floor. "That," Silence pressed down like a weight. I bent to pick up the folder. My hands shook as I held it out. "You mean this?" She nodded, her face pale. "That's the original contract between Dad and the company. It doesn't just prove he was involved, it proves he tried to expose them. He copied data, handed it to someone he trusted, someone named Grant. That's why they killed him. That's why they want it back." I blinked, trying to take it all in. Then who is that man? Lydia's voice dropped to a whisper. "He's not a banker. He's not even Noah Grant. He's using that name. His real name is Elias Crow. He worked with Dad. He was the one who sabotaged the car." Noah tensed. "Then why come after you?" "Because I found something he didn't," Lydia said. "The missing file. The last upload Dad made before he died." Her trembling hand reached into her jacket pocket. She pulled out a small silver USB drive, no bigger than my thumb. "This," she whispered. "This is what he's after." Before I could react, headlights flashed through the window. A car door slammed outside. Lydia's head snapped up. "He found us." Noah grabbed his knife, eyes darting toward the back door. "How?" "We didn't leave any trail. He's been tracking me," Lydia cut in. "My phone. It's in my jacket." Before she could finish, the door burst open. Rain and wind crashed into the room. Standing in the doorway was Elias, soaked furious but calm in that terrifying way only predators are. "Family reunion," he said, stepping inside. "How touching." Lydia backed away, clutching the USB. "Stay back." He smiled faintly. "You think you can hide from me with that toy? That file belongs to the company. Dad died for it," she shouted. Elias's expression didn't change. "Yes, and you will too if you're not careful." Noah stepped between them. "You'll have to go through me first." Elias looked almost amused. "Oh, I intend to." He reached into his coat, not for a gun, but for a remote device, small and blinking red. Noah's eyes widened. "What is that?" Elias held it up. "Insurance." A second later, a deep rumble shook the cabin. The sound came from beneath the floorboards. "What did you do?" I cried. He smirked. "You should have listened when I said not to open that box." Noah lunged forward, slamming Elias against the wall. The device clattered to the floor. Lydia dove for it, grabbed it, and threw it into the fire. Sparks erupted. The remote melted into glowing plastic. For a split second, everything went still. Then boom! The explosion wasn't large, but it was enough to knock the wind out of me. The floor split flames, licking up through the cracks. Noah pulled me toward the back door, shouting over the chaos. "Run!" Lydia grabbed the folder and the USB, clutching them to her chest. We stumbled through the rain as the cabin went up in flames behind us. Elias staggered to the doorway, blood trickling from his temple, his voice hoarse but venomous. "You can run, Evelyn, but this isn't over. You still don't know what your husband really did," lightning flashed, illuminating his twisted smile before the smoke swallowed him. We reached the road, soaked and shaking. Lydia leaned against me, her face pale, her hands clutching the USB like a lifeline. Noah stared back at the burning cabin. "He'll come again. We need to get that data somewhere safe." Lydia looked at him. "Not safe. Seen. The world needs to see what they did." I looked at her. My daughter, who had once abandoned me, now standing in the rain with firelight behind her like a warrior. "Then we'll finish what your father started," I said. The fire behind us painted the forest in orange light, the smoke curling up like ghosts. We didn't stop until the flames were just a dull glow on the horizon. My heart still hammered in my chest, but for the first time, I wasn't running from fear. I was running with purpose. We found an abandoned gas station near the highway and ducked inside. The lights flickered weakly. A payphone hung crooked on the wall, long dead. I sat on an overturned crate, soaked trembling, the heat from the burning cabin still etched into my skin. Lydia stood by the window, clutching the USB drive like it was her heartbeat. Noah was pacing, muttering plans under his breath. "We can't go home," he said. "They'll expect that. They'll watch every road, every motel, every police station." I looked at him. "Then where?" He stopped pacing, eyes fixed on the USB. "Somewhere we can upload that file. If the data gets out publicly, they can't bury it again. We just need internet access in 5 minutes. Lydia shook her head. "Elias has people everywhere. The moment we connect, they'll trace it. Then we don't connect from here," Noah said. We go public from the source, the bank. The system's already tied to Project Echo. If we plug in there, it'll mirror the data to their secure archives. They can't delete their own backup. Lydia looked skeptical. You sure about that? Noah met her gaze. No, but it's our best shot. That. For a long time, none of us spoke. The rain outside softened into a whisper. I stared at the folder still tucked under my arm, at Robert's signature, bold, deliberate, and so heartbreakingly familiar. I had spent 15 years believing my husband died an ordinary man. Now I wasn't sure if he'd been a hero or a monster, maybe both. I opened the folder again, my hands shaking. There were pages I hadn't noticed before, a final letter handwritten folded between the contracts. Evelyn, if you're reading this, I failed to protect you. I thought I could fix it quietly, but they were always watching. Don't let them bury the truth. Don't let Lydia believe I died for greed. I did what I had to do for both of you. If this reaches you, tell our daughter I'm sorry. Tell her I love her. Robert tears blurred the ink. I whispered he wasn't hiding from us. He was trying to save us. Lydia knelt beside me, her hand trembling against mine. Mom, we can still finish what he started. I nodded slowly. Then let's end this. We reached Columbus before dawn. The streets were slick with rain, streetlights glowing like weak lanterns. The Midland Savings Building loomed ahead, cold, glassy, and silent. Noah parked behind the loading bay. Security cameras loop every 20 minutes, he said. That gives us a small window. We slipped through a side door using the same passkey he'd taken from the depot. Inside, the air smelled of dust and disinfectant. Our footsteps echoed against marble floors. The server room was deep in the basement, a place Robert once described as the belly of the beast. When we reached it, the door was sealed by a biometric lock. Lydia stared at it. Its fingerprint and retina access were dead. Noah frowned, studying the panel. Not necessarily. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small metallic chip. I took this from Elias's office the night we met. It overrides the internal scan. He inserted it into the slot. For a tense second, nothing happened. Then a green light blinked, and the lock released with a click. The door slid open. Rows of humming servers stretched into the dark like metallic towers. The cold air made my skin prickle. This is it, Noah whispered. Lydia stepped forward, connecting the USB to a terminal. The screen flickered to life code, flooding across it like a storm of numbers. Uploading now, she said. We've got 5 minutes before they notice. Noah stood guard by the door, his hand tight on his knife. I stayed beside my daughter, watching the progress bar crawl across the screen. 32%, 46%, 71%, then 98%. A loud clang echoed through the hall. Footsteps. Lydia's eyes widened. He's here. Elias's voice came before his face. Calm, collected. That same terrible patience. You really are your father's daughter. He stepped into the doorway, gun in hand, blood dried along his temple. His coat was torn, but his smile was intact. Step away from the console, he said. Noah moved between him and us. You're too late. Elias aimed the gun. Am I? The screen behind me flashed. Upload complete. The files had gone live. Mirrored, archived, unstoppable. Elias's smile faltered. You don't know what you've done. Yes, I do, I said, stepping forward. You killed good men to protect your lies. You turned my husband into a ghost. But now the world will know what you did. He raised the gun toward me, his voice low and cold. Then you'll die like he did. Before he could pull the trigger, Noah lunged. The gun fired once, twice, deafening cracks in the confined space. Elias fell backward, clutching his chest. The weapon skidded across the floor. Smoke curled from the barrel. Lydia screamed. Noah collapsed to his knees, clutching his arm, blood seeping through his sleeve. I rushed to him, pressing my hands against the wound. You're gonna be okay, you hear me? He winced, but smiled weakly. Worth it. Behind us, Elias lay still, eyes open, his last breath rattling out into the cold air. The silence that followed was unbearable. Just the hum of the servers and the soft drip of rain leaking through the ceiling vent. Lydia turned back to the console. It's done, she whispered. The files are live. They can't hide anymore. I looked down at her, my throat thick with pride and grief. Your father would have been proud of you." She looked up, tears mixing with the dust on her face. "So would he of you." I closed my eyes. For the first time in years, the weight on my chest lifted. Not gone, but lighter. The truth had a price, but so did silence. And tonight, we had finally paid it. The sun was rising when we stepped out of the bank. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening like glass. Sirens wailed somewhere far away, the world slowly waking up, unaware that its foundations had just cracked. Lydia supported Noah as we crossed the empty parking lot. His sleeve was soaked in blood, but his grip was strong. The light painted his face gold-tired but alive. We'd done it. The files were out. The truth was free. Or so we thought. We hid in an old rest stop off the interstate, waiting for the news to break. I sat beside the vending machines, clutching a cup of cheap coffee, the warmth steadying my shaking hands. Lydia scrolled through her phone, eyes darting across the screen. "It's everywhere," she whispered. Every news outlet's picked it up. Midland savings linked to illegal experiments, offshore laundering, and homicide cover-ups. Noah smiled faintly. "Your father's name cleared," she said. "They're calling him a whistleblower." I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. He finally got justice. Lydia turned to me, her face softening. We both did. But then her phone buzzed again, one new message from an unknown number. She hesitated before opening it. The text was short. "You only revealed half the story, R." Her face went pale. "Mom? Who's R?" My heart skipped. "Robert." She shook her head. "That's impossible. He's dead." Noah frowned. "Unless he isn't." The lights above us flickered. A chill swept through the air. I stood, my voice trembling. "No, don't do this to me. I saw the crash. I saw his car." Lydia held up the phone. "Look at this." Attached to the message was a photo, blurry, grainy, taken just hours ago. A man standing near a pier, gray hair, same build, same stance. The caption read, "Columbus Harbor, 6:00 a.m." The timestamp matched. It was taken 20 minutes ago. I stared at the screen until my knees went weak. "That can't be." Noah steadied me. "It could be faked." But deep down, something inside me, something old and familiar, whispered otherwise. We drove to the harbor in silence. The city shimmered under the first light of day, its skyline glowing gold and cruel. Seagulls wheeled overhead as we parked by the water. Lydia ran ahead, scanning the docks. "Mom, over there," I followed her gaze. A man stood at the end of the pier, hands in his pockets, facing the rising sun. For a heartbeat, I couldn't move. The world tilted, everything narrowing into that one silhouette. He turned slightly at the sound of our footsteps, and I saw him. Older, thinner, but those eyes, I'd know them anywhere. "Robert," I whispered. The man smiled faintly. "You shouldn't have come." My chest tightened. "You're alive." He nodded once. Alive, but not free. "Not yet." Lydia stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "Dad, where were you? Why didn't you tell us?" He looked at her, pride, guilt, sorrow, all tangled together. "Because if I did, they'd have killed you both." Noah moved closer, hand near his knife. "Who are you running from?" Robert's eyes flicked to him. "Not running, waiting. Waiting for what I asked." Before he could answer, a black SUV pulled into the lot. Its windows tinted, its engine too quiet. Robert's expression hardened. "They found me." "Who Lydia demanded." He turned back to us, his voice low but clear. "The ones above Elias. The ones who built Echo. What you've seen, that was just the first layer." The car doors opened. Robert pressed something small and cold into my palm, a key engraved with the number 212. "Find the vault," he said. "End it properly this time." And before I could speak, he turned and walked toward the SUV, hands raised. The vehicle door slammed. Tires screeched. Then silence. He was gone again. Lydia's voice broke beside me. "Mom, what just happened?" I stared at the key in my hand, the metal warm from his touch. Something tells me I whispered this story isn't over. We stood there on the pier long after the SUV disappeared, the smell of salt and diesel hanging in the air. The sun climbed higher, turning the water into a sheet of blinding gold. I could still feel the weight of the key in my palm, small, sharp, almost humming with unfinished business. Lydia leaned against me, silent tears streaking her cheeks. Noah's arm was in a sling now, his face pale but his eyes steady. None of us spoke. There was nothing left to say that didn't sound like disbelief. Somewhere out there, the man I thought I'd buried 15 years ago was alive and still fighting ghosts we barely understood. I looked down at the key again. 212, another box, another secret, another truth waiting to be unearthed. My husband's voice echoed in my head. If this reaches you, tell our daughter I'm sorry. Tell her I love her. Maybe this was his way of finishing that apology. Or maybe it was another test to see how far we'd go for the truth. The news reports had already started calling us heroes, but I didn't feel like one. Heroes get endings. All I had was another door to open and the dread of what might be behind it. I turned to Lydia. He gave me this for a reason. If we walk away now, everything he did, everything we risked, dies with him. She wiped her face. Then we finish it, Mom. Noah nodded, grim and determined. One last vault. I smiled faintly, though my heart ached. One last truth. As we walked back to the car, the gulls screamed overhead, circling, like they knew something we didn't. The world looked the same, calm, ordinary, untouched. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. Because once you open one locked door, you start to realize how many others there are, and some keys never stop turning.